for them to say, there's no studies on this. What universe, dystopian universe, do they live in? This is absolutely ludicrous. I can point you to dozens of papers. Any scientist can.
Now, it was 25 days into the new presidency when Robert F. Kennedy was confirmed as the new health secretary. By day 38, there was a measles outbreak in Texas. You've got a health secretary now during a measles outbreak who wants to highlight what he sees as the perils of vaccines. What does Eric Feigl-Ding think about that? Who's a public health expert at the research institute, the NECSI. Welcome to you, Eric. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Can I ask you first? Good to have you here. Can I ask you first of all, can you tell us, are Americans safer or more at risk from infectious diseases and epidemics since President Trump and his new health secretary came into office?
Oh, Americans are definitely much more imperiled in terms of all things public health. We're talking about not just infectious diseases. We're talking about poisonings from the waters, the air. There is so many things we actually don't even know anymore because we've dismantled the very agencies and offices within the CDC that monitor these public health safety. So it's almost like if see no evil, hear no evil, if you test for no evil. And right now we are very, very much like decimated in terms of our capacity to even know what's going on, not to mention respond to these crises, these outbreaks, and other public health calamities.
Right, I guess the exemplar of the argument you're making there is what has happened in Texas with an outbreak of measles. There have been deaths. What's the latest on that?
Oh, I think there's like 2 deaths, but we're over, in terms of cases, we're well over 900. I think we're almost at 1,000 cases, probably well over 1,000 if we count all the undercounted ones.
How does that compare to the situation before the arrival of the new health secretary and the new president?
Well, previously we only had a very spotty, small outbreaks. And I think in many ways, there were going to be outbreaks because there's so much vaccine disinformation. And let's not forget that RFK Jr. is always known as the king of anti-vax. His Children's Health Defense was notoriously one of the worst, largest, well-funded anti-vax organizations that's been proliferating this anti-vaccine sentiment and disinformation for years. And now, of course, you've made that guy who is the king of anti-vax the health secretary, and everyone around him has this emperor no clothes that we cannot say we recommend the MMR vaccine. Like literally all his medical staff around him, they cannot say we recommend parents get the MMR vaccine. They just don't say it anymore, and it's very, very dangerous.
Eric, is it possible to directly link the new health secretary's attitude, skepticism about vaccine, which is very, very widely publicized, and the outbreak of measles that we have seen? Is that possible to join those dots directly? I
think you can definitely make an argument for that because, look, he's telling people, just get vitamin A, that will ward off this measles, and now we have vitamin A poisonings. Vitamin A, it works in malnourished populations in developing countries, but here no one's malnourished in vitamin A. But meantime, they're literally punting and telling people, because in order to stop this pandemic, stop this outbreak of measles, you need like this herd immunity. And in many parts of Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, there is very, very little MMR vaccinations in these clusters. Yeah. And if it finds any hotspot, it's going to grow. And if he goes there, he actually visits there and tells them, just stay the course. You don't need to get the vaccine. Of course, this outbreak is going to further proliferate. And I think it's going to come up in even more pockets. And I think we're in a world of hurt coming in the next few years. All right.
Look, I want to talk about autism, because yesterday I spoke to Carla Sands, who's a former diplomat and advisor to President Trump. She's obviously part of the strong MAGA faithful supporters of Donald Trump. Now, on the subject of autism, she had this to say. Just have a listen back. You then also argue that autism, you're dealing with the scourge of autism, and your new health secretary says that has to do with vaccines. It's a byproduct of vaccination.
Why don't
Scientists
we find out
all
what
over
the cause
world
is?
say that's not
Why
the
don't
case.
they've never even done studies on what causes autism? How come not? Why aren't any of these vaccines actually tested before they're given to children? They're not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people, including in this country, are worried about that analysis.
Yeah, well, let's find out. Let's use scientific analysis and find out the cause.
Okay, let me ask you about a very
imagine
active
ending
point.
that? That's a scourge on so many families.
So that's Carla Sands expressing herself very, very, very strongly. Tell me what your thoughts listening to that.
So I'm an epidemiologist. I've spent my entire career in schools of public health conducting research, and let me tell you, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of peer review published in high medical journal respected papers that show vaccines, MMR vaccines, many other vaccines do not cause autism. Actually, there's one of the largest studies in the world in Denmark. A lot of these Nordic countries have like universal healthcare and linkages with everything. So everyone who takes vaccines and everyone who develops any diseases, we have data on them. And they actually show that the vaccine, MMR vaccine, actually reduces the risk of autism in the Danish study. And it's one of the world's largest studies. It's their national database and this is just one tip of the iceberg. This is the most recent study. We have decades of research. Other than the Andrew Wakefield retracted scandal paper, which we know that he was very conflicted, we have dozens and dozens of studies. And this is this is not cherry picked. These are national studies, mega, with a couple 100 million years of person time. I'm an epidemiologist. This is literally the kind of research we do. And for them to say, there's no studies on this, what universe, dystopian universe, do they live in? This is absolutely ludicrous. I can point you to dozens of papers. Any scientist can.
Yeah, Eric Feigl-Ding, you clearly feel very strongly about this. I think we get that message, and you're gesticulating so vigorously. You nearly knocked over our camera in the corner of the studio. But Eric, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much.